All right. Well, welcome back. So, next up, we will hear from SSP board member Tom Cowan. During this session, Tom will lead us through a 20-minute teaching on seeking wisdom throughout the world. We then break for 15, step outside for hands-on work, then meet back in the space for closing. Welcome, Tom. So happy you're able to join us today.
Well, I'm happy to be here. And I want to say to all the folks who are out there listening, thank you for coming. Thanks for joining us. This is a special day. It's Earth Day. And the Society for Shamanic Practice wants to honor the Earth with this special event. So the topic that I'm going to be talking about is Earth-centered divination. It's divination like you would use a tarot deck or you would use runes or some other method. But in this method, you're using the Earth itself with the understanding that the Earth can communicate to us. And the Earth gives us signs and omens and synchronicities. Some of you may remember back when I was teaching that I used to love to teach what I called an omen hunt. And basically that's what we're going to be doing today, is to look at the Earth as a place where you can get wisdom, you can get advice, you can get instructions on how to live your life like you would if you were going to go to a tarot card reader. Now, the idea for this came to me many years ago when I was reading about life in the Scottish Highlands back in the 19th century. And there was a man in a little village in the Highlands who was known to be a seer. People came to him with their problems, with their questions, looking for advice, looking for answers. And he had a very interesting method for finding an omen or a sign that would be appropriate for the person coming with the question or the issue. Let me explain to you what he did. He would only do divination on Monday mornings. And he would get up at dawn and he would get dressed, but he would not put on his shoes or his hat. And then he would walk to the fire, which back in those days, the old crofters' cottages had the fire in the center of the room. So he went to the fire and he walked around it several times, praying to God to help him find an omen and be able to advise the person that he was doing this for. And then he would walk over and he wouldn't have any breakfast or anything to drink or eat. He would walk over to his door, he would open the door and he would look out and there would be the omen. Now, we'll talk a little bit later about what the omen might be, but I'd like to focus right now on this technique. What's he doing? If you stop and think about it, he's trying to put himself into a receptive place, a place where he'll be receptive to see the omen that the Earth is going to give him. And he's doing this by using an old Celtic idea, and it's found in other cultures too, of being betwixt and between, of being neither this nor that. Because these places that are liminal, that are neither this nor that, they're betwixt and between, they're always seen as places of great power and great mystery. And they're thin places. So if you want to make contact with the spirit world, go to a thin place or a thin time, and you'll have a much better chance of success. So what's he doing? He's doing it on Monday. It's not the weekend, and it's not the work week. It's betwixt and between. He gets up at dawn, and dawn is always a very liminal place. It's not night, it's not day. It's right on the edge of night and day. He's both dressed and not dressed because he didn't put on his shoes and hat. And he hasn't eaten or drunk anything, so he hasn't really had his breakfast. He's before the breakfast. He goes to the center and circles around, because when you're in the center, you're always betwixt and between, aren't you? I mean, you've always got the four directions on your left, your right, front, behind. You're always betwixt and between. That's what's so powerful about being in the center of something. And he says a few prayers because he sees this divination practice as something sacred and something that he needs divine help with. Then he goes up to his door and he stands in the doorway. And so he's neither inside nor outside. He's betwixt and between the indoors and the outdoors. And so by the time he gets there, he's put himself into a very receptive place, both physically, being in the doorway, and psychically. He's let his consciousness shift or alter so that he knows that he's in a very place of strong magic, of strong spiritual connection. And then he looks up and he sees the omen. And we'll get to what the omen might be in a minute, but I want to stay right now on this technique. This is an interesting technique, and it's something that you can do yourself. You don't have to wait till Monday. You don't have to do it at dawn. But there are ways you can put yourself betwixt and between. Put yourself in a situation that is neither this nor that. So here's the method based on what that crofter did back a couple hundred years ago. First of all, you want to call your spirit guides, your teachers, power animals, ancestors, whoever you would like to have go with you through this omen hunt. Call them, express your gratitude for them, gratitude that they're in your lives, that they help you, and call upon them to help you, that you need help, you need answers, information for an issue in your life. So you're going to be doing this divination for yourself right now. We'll talk about doing it for someone else later. So what do? Go outside and in the company of your power animal or spirit guide, look around and find a place that's betwixt and between. And I guarantee you'll see many places that are betwixt and between. Could be between two trees, two bushes. You could walk up to a fence and stand in the gate. If you're in the city, you could stand between two parked cars. That's a betwixt and between. If you're near a sidewalk, you might be right by the edge of the road. Put one foot in the road, put one foot on the sidewalk, or be between the sidewalk and the road. You can not always, but you can often find shadows. The edge of a shadow is not sunlight, not shadow. It's that in-between place, neither light nor dark. You can be between two houses. If you're near a pond or a river, or you're on the ocean, you can go down there. The edge of water is always seen as a place of great power, great spiritual influence. So you're looking for a liminal place, a place that you can go to, where you'll be at the edge of something, and you want your consciousness to kind of grab onto that and to tell yourself you're going to a place that is neither this nor that. So you find your spot. Let's say it's between two trees. Then put your eyes down and look at the ground and walk over to those trees. And wherever you're going to get into your betwixt and between spot, keep your eyes on the ground, because you don't want to start gawking around and looking at all the things that might end up to be the omen. You want to keep your mind as empty as possible. So you get to the spot betwixt and between, keep your eyes down. In fact, you might actually close them now and start rotating around and around, asking the guide that's with you to tell you when to stop. So what you're doing actually is giving your guide a chance to get you facing the right direction to see the omen. Because you don't know where this omen is yet. You're just in the place that is receptive to it. So you're rotating around and around and around, and you hear your guide say, stop, and stop. And trust that you are facing the right direction to see the omen. And then wait for your guide to tell you to open your eyes or look up. And when you open your eyes and you look up, the first thing that grabs your attention, it's usually something visual, but it could be a sound, that is the omen. Okay, so there's like 5 steps here. Make contact with your guide, your spirit guide. Give gratitude, ask for help. Go outside and locate a place that is betwixt and between. Lower your eyes to the ground and walk over to that spot. Close your eyes and start rotating. Wait for your guide to say stop and stop. And wait for your guide to tell you when to look up. So you're looking up at the right moment and you'll see the omen. Let's go back to that crofter for a minute now and talk about the omen. Think about it. This guy has lived in this cottage probably all his life, and he's looked out his door maybe millions of times. He knows exactly what's out there. There's the road, there's the neighbors, there's so-and-so's field, so-and-so's horse is always over there behind that fence. So what's going to be the omen? Even though he knows the scene, something will be happening out there that will get his attention. Maybe that horse will whinny, and the omen is the sound of a horse whinnying. Maybe one of the neighbors is walking with a pail of water, and that grabs his attention. So-and-so carrying a pail of water. Maybe a flock of birds will fly by. Maybe you'll hear someone shout to someone. Maybe you'll see a couple kids playing down the road. These are just ordinary, everyday things. These omens are not like a bolt out of the blue. Of course, there could be a lightning bolt coming out of the blue at the moment, and that would be the omen. But most likely, he's just going to see the ordinary, everyday things that go on out there. And he'll know, because he's receptive, and he's walking with his spirit guide, that, and he said his prayers to God, that he will see the omen. It'll be something that gets his attention. And it's the same with you when you do this. You'll be looking up, and it's not going to be something unusual or spectacular. It might be just a very ordinary thing. You might see flowers. You might see a broken limb. You might see a car go by. Whatever it is, though, trust that that's the omen. And it'll come within a minute. I shouldn't say a minute. It'll come within a second or two after you open your eyes. If you open your eyes and you find you're scanning, you're looking all around thinking, okay, where's the omen? Where's the omen? Is it this? Is it that? You're looking around. If you have to do that, you're not getting the omen. You need to start over and do it again, because scanning is your activity. It's not the Earth's activity. And you want to be receptive to what the Earth is going to show you. And if you don't see anything that really grabs you within the first second or two, maybe you didn't set yourself up right. Maybe you didn't listen closely enough to your guide as to when to move, or maybe you're facing slightly the wrong direction. Don't feel bad if you don't find an omen. Just say to yourself, I'll do it again. I'll start over. Then start from where you are, look around, find a new spot at betwixt and between, and then go over to it and go through those steps again. Rotate, keep your eyes down, closed, and then wait till the guide says, open them, and then open them. So don't feel bad. Lots of times, the Earth and you and the spirit that's walking with you get slightly off, and the omen's not there. Or you're a little bit too early for the omen, or maybe a little too late for the omen. What kind of questions should you ask? This is important. You're doing an omen hunt to get information, not to get a yes or no answer. If you're looking for a yes or no answer to a question, a friend of mine years ago said, why don't you just flip a coin? If you trust that the universe can give you the right tarot cards to answer your question, yes or no, why do you not trust that the universe could make that coin flip just the right way? Heads, yes, tails, no. There's a much easier way to get yes and no answers. But when you do a divination journey for someone, or you do an omen hunt for someone, you're looking for more than just yes or no. You're looking for information to help the person make a decision, to come to that question, that point of being able to say, yes, I will do this, or no, I will not do that. So you need some questions. What kind of questions can you carry with you when you go on an omen hunt? Well, you have your issue. Be very clear on what your issue is. What do you need information or wisdom or teaching about? And then you could ask questions like this. What will happen if I such and such and such? What will happen if I do this? What will happen if I don't do this? What should I know about this issue? What will help me understand this issue better? Or what's the best way to do such and such? What should I avoid if I want to do such and such? What will help me to do what I need to do? So it's these kind of questions that the omen will answer for you and give you some information on. So I'd like to give you another way to do the omen hunt. I think there's time to get to do it here. If you don't want to do the betwixt and between, you could do another method, which I found to be equally as effective, and in some ways it's easier. And it's to just let yourself be guided by spirit, your guide, the whole way. Start by calling your guide, offer thanks for the guide being in your life, tell the guide the issue that you got, to the questions that you want. Then go outside, lower your eyes, look down to the ground, and start to rotate until the spirit says stop. When your guide says stop, start to walk in that direction. Again, keeping your eyes down until your guide says stop, and then stop and close your eyes. Now you're in the right spot, but you don't know which direction you're supposed to be facing. So start to rotate, like in the other method, until with your eyes closed, until you hear your guide say stop. And when it says stop, stop. Okay, now you're facing the right direction. But when's the right time to look? So you wait until your guide says to look up. And when your guide says to look up, and again, the first thing that attracts your attention, visually or orally, is the omen. If you have several questions, my suggestion is to take a pencil and paper with you and do a separate omen hunt for each of the questions. Write down the omen when you get it, and don't try to interpret it. Interpreting is the very last thing that you do. And you want to collect the omens, even if it's just one, bring it back inside or sit down, and then begin to say, how does this speak to my issue? How does this help me understand what it is I'm trying to do? Sometimes the omen isn't real obvious. I mean, what you saw is obvious. It was an eagle flying overhead, or it was a cow walking down the road, or it was a woman on a horse. But what that says to your issue, you might have to think a bit. You may have to meditate on it. You may have to do a journey. You can journey to the spirit of that omen and merge with it, or shapeshift into the kind of form and substance of that omen, and see what's the wisdom here, what's the teaching. And sometimes the meaning of an omen won't come until maybe a day or two later. So don't get too discouraged if you can't make sense of it right away. And if you're doing several omen hunts on an issue, you want to write down the omens as you get them, but don't start to interpret them until you get back to your place where you started. Because sometimes you'll interpret an omen in terms of another one, or one will cast some light on another omen. They kind of talk to each other. So you want to get all the omens first, then come back, come inside, sit down, get comfortable, and begin to work to interpret them. So there it is. We've had about 20 minutes or so, and the next thing that we've built into this hour is to take 15 minutes to go outside and just practice this. Practice either method, the betwixt and between method, where you're going to be betwixt and between, you're going to be somewhere that's neither this nor that, or the spirit guided one, where you're going to let your spirit guides take you and get you in the right place, get you facing the right direction, tell you when to look up. Either one. I'm hoping, though, that as you go out, that you really will be successful with this, and that the earth will give you some signs. The earth will give you omens. You can do it in the city if you're in the city. You can do it in your backyard. You can do it outside. So I have 5:06. Do I? Or 5:07. Let's meet back here at, what time would that be? 15 minutes? About 20 after. 20 after the hour, whichever hour you've got at the moment. I have 5 o'clock. You probably have an earlier hour. So go out, take a pencil and paper with you, and see what happens. Go for your omen hunt, and we'll talk later. Okay, I hope at least some of you are back. Sometimes people go out on omen hunts and they never come back. But they end up in a good place, I think. I'd like to share a couple omen hunts that I did in the past with you, because they show you certain things. One of the things I wanted to say here is that when you start to do an omen hunt, the earth might have the omen ready for you faster than you think it is. You may not have to go through all the steps and closing your eyes and turning around. The omen might just suddenly come really, really quick. So you have to kind of be ready for that. One time I was hiking in the woods on a Sunday morning, and I was trying to decide whether to stay on the town's environmental council or to resign, because I didn't think anybody cared for what I had to say about the environment. So anyway, I'm sort of fretting about that, and I decide, well, here I'm in the woods, I'll find a couple trees and I'll do an omen hunt. So I see 2 trees and I go over to it. And before I can get to the trees, I hear some guy down the trail shouting at his dog to come back. And so my first instinct was to think, oh, he interrupted my omen hunt. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe that's the omen. You got to be open, because the earth might have the omen ready for you before you're ready. So I thought, well, what is the omen? And I heard my power animal say, it's a voice in the woods. And then my power animal quoted the New Testament and described St. John the Baptist as a voice crying in the wilderness. And then my power animal said, that's you. And I thought, well, that's right. nobody's listening to me on the environmental council because I'm out in the woods. I'm in the wilderness. I don't have the same values that the town has about this. So I ended up resigning. And other reasons too. It wasn't just this one omen hunt on a Sunday morning, but it was information that helped reassure me that I was taking the right steps. Another time I was doing an omen hunt. I was riding my bicycle, and I live in the country, so the roads I go on are country roads, and there's no sidewalks, and there's just fields on different sides and occasional houses. And I was doing a spirit-guided omen hunt, so I was talking to my power animal the whole time, and I had an issue involved, and I said, "Let me know when I should stop, and I'll stand by the edge of the road here, and I'll do my omen hunt." So I heard my power animal say, "Okay, stop." So I got off my bike and I put the kickstand down and I closed my eyes and I started to turn around. And then I hear this truck coming and my bike fell over. And so I kind of got startled and I thought, oh, it's ruining my omen hunt. And the truck went by and it was a truck that belongs to a company that fixes air conditioners and furnaces. It said airflow on the side. So I said to my partner, let's do this again. I don't feel, I'm out of the mood. I lost my train of consciousness. So I get back on my bike, ride around for another 5 or 10 minutes. My partner says, okay, this is it, stop. I stopped and I made sure my kickstand was down and the bike wasn't standing in some kind of mushy area. And I start turning around, and power animal says, okay, look up. I look up, and here comes the airflow truck coming back from wherever it had gone to. And then it had come back, and I saw it a second time, and I thought, well, that was the omen at the beginning. I didn't catch it. I let it go by. And it was the phrase airflow, which made a lot of sense the more I thought about it, connecting to the issue that I was working on. So you kind of have to be ready and even take things that you might think are interruptions as the omen. I was doing this omen hunt for a friend of mine. I wanted to talk about this a little bit too, because if you have a friend who asks you to do an omen hunt on an issue, you can do it. Find the omen and then take the omen back to your friend and let your friend interpret the omen. It's sort of like when you do a divination journey. You just come back and you explain the journey, but you don't try to interpret it. You let the person you're doing it for interpret it. So I had this friend, and she's a writer, and she's written several novels, and she writes poetry. And she was having trouble with this novel she's working on. She says, I don't know if I should keep writing it or do something else or what. Would you do an omen hunt? So I said, okay, I'll do an omen hunt. So I went down to the river a few days later to do the omen hunt, and I'm standing by the edge of the river, the edge of water, perfect liminal place. And I close my eyes, and just as I start to turn around, I hear this guy say, sir, can I interrupt you? And I look over, and there's this young man, maybe 20 years old. And I said, okay, what? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, he's interrupting my omen hunt. And he said, can you give me a ride across the river? I have a job interview. And I said, no, I can't. I just came from there. But I said, I can give you a ride up to the road and you could maybe hitchhike across the bridge. So he said, okay. So we got in my car. He gets in immediately and says, what do you do? And I usually don't go into shamanism and situations like that. So I just said, well, I'm a writer and I do editing work. And he said, oh, I'm a writer too. And I said, you are? And he said, yeah. And it's a really young looking kid. And I said, what do you write? He said, I'm writing a novel. But I actually haven't written anything yet. And I had to kind of smile because I'm always running into these people who they're writers, but they've never written anything yet. So I said, why haven't you written it? He says, well, I'm not sure about the plot. And there's characters that I don't know if I need more characters. And suddenly I got this chill. I thought, this is exactly what my friend wants to know. So I pumped him a little bit more for the problems that he was having not writing his book. And when I got up to the road, he topped out and he said thank you. And I said thank you. He didn't know how much I was really thanking him. And I went home and I called my friend and I said, listen, you're not going to believe this, but here's what I think you need to do about your novel. And I just told her exactly what the young man told me. And she said, I think that's right. She said, I think I need to just kind of put it aside, do something else for a while. So anyway, you can do omen hunts for other people. And again, the spirits, the earth, wanting you to get a particular omen may not wait for you to go through all these steps of turning around and closing your eyes and going betwixt and between. The omen might come much faster than you think. So anyway, Lally, do we have any questions?
Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Just one question so far. We have a question about, does the direction matter, which direction you are facing? Does that matter? And what if you can't, what if when you go to do the process and you start spinning, you get so dizzy that you get discombobulated a little bit?
Well, okay. Well, I don't think you're going to
Kind
get, I don't think you're going to spin that much.
Yeah, don't spin, right. Okay.
In fact, you're not, spinning is probably not the right word. You're just rotating. You're just slowly
rotate.
turning around. Because at that point, you don't know which direction you need to face to see the omen. So you're waiting for your power animal or spirit guide just to say, okay, stop. And the direction, you have to trust that you were stopped facing the direction you need to face to see the omen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
That's all we have on the Q&A right now. So if anyone wants to ask anything, please go ahead.
Well, I have one more thing I'd like to share with you too. I was doing a retreat at Omega Institute some years ago, and it was a retreat to kind of honor and make contact with people that we knew who were deceased, who were passed on. It wasn't exactly like a seance weekend, but it had that element about it. People were curious about talking to their loved ones who had died. So we did an omen hunt, and I told the folks, I said, whoever it is that has passed away in your life, and if you'd like to feel close to them, or maybe ask them a question or find out how they're doing, call upon them. Let that be the guide. Let that be the spirit that will take you out, move you around, and give you an omen. So they did that. And there was this one man, he was probably in his 60s, and his wife had died recently. And so he went out and he was with her the whole weekend. He was just staying very close to her and listening to what she was trying to tell him. And so he went out and did the omen hunt. And when he opened his eyes, when his wife's spirit said, okay, open your eyes, he opened his eyes and he was looking at one of the women who was in the retreat, who was a few hundred feet away. And he thought, well, that's a strange omen. He was wondering, why would my wife want me to see this woman that's way over there? So he walked over, and as they were coming back into the cabin that we were meeting in, he told the woman, he said, you're the omen that my wife gave me. And she said, oh, I feel very honored. And he said, by the way, what's your name? And it turns out she has the same name as his wife. He didn't know that before. And so he sort of burst into tears and really felt like his wife was telling him that she's okay. She's there in more ways than one. So think about this, and you may want to do a omen hunt sometime when you feel like you really would like to make some contact with a loved one, family member, or friend who has passed on. Back when we were getting ready to invade Iraq, do you remember that? Back in 2003, I was all concerned about it, like many people around the world, holding their breath, that maybe we wouldn't really start a war in the Middle East, but looked like we were going to. So I was doing an omen hunt. The question I had was, what should I know about the war that we're probably going to get into over there? So I forget which method I was using, but when I opened my eyes, looked up, a school bus went down the road, and then another one went down, and then another one came out. It was that time in the afternoon when you get that parade of school buses. And so I thought, okay, school buses, what's that got to do with the war in Iraq? And I couldn't make any connection for quite a while. And I thought, well, maybe I should try to see those school buses again. So I closed my eyes and I tried to picture them going by. And I realized that they went by, that they were empty. They hadn't picked up the kids yet. So they were a parade of empty school buses. And the thought went through my mind that maybe what the spirits are trying to tell me is to think about the children in a war zone. Many will get killed. Many will lose their parents. It'll disrupt their school. They may lose their childhood completely because of an ongoing war. So anyway, that was another omen hunt that I did that I found to be very, very, very meaningful in helping me to think about what war can do. So Lally, how are we?
We have another question.
Okay.
The rotation activity is really a physical shedding of what we're dragging around and opens our reception to the answer, yes? Somewhat like eliminating a bias. Is that right?
I think I missed the beginning of this. Could you
Sure,
go
the
back?
rotation activity, the turning around, is
Oh,
that
sure.
really a kind of a shedding of what we're dragging around with us? And does that open us up to the answer in some way? Like kind of like eliminating a bias?
Yeah, I think you could think of it that way, because I think that all the steps that you're going through is like putting yourself into an altered state of consciousness, a light altered state of consciousness, a shifting of consciousness to realize that you walk with spirits and the spirits are with you and they're helping you right now to get information or wisdom or teaching in the form of an omen. And so, yes, I think as you do that, you are kind of shuffling off your ordinary concerns and trying to make your senses, your vision and your hearing, be attuned to what the earth is trying to say to you, the sign or the synchronicity, or the teaching that the earth is trying to give to you. Does that help?
This is more of a chat, a comment versus a question, but just wanted to share this with you. Yes, mine came almost instantly as soon as I stepped out and asked my question. Thank you for this practice.
Oh, okay, good. The person didn't say what the omen was or what the issue was.
Nope,
No,
just a simple
no.
thank you.
Just okay. Yeah, the more you do this, the more you feel you get confidence in it. The first couple times you do it, and that's why I wanted you to do it during this hour, is to it may feel funny, you may feel a little strange, but the more you do it, the more confidence you get. And as I'm saying, that I think the minute you decide to do an omen hunt and you step outside, you should have all your senses on a high alert, because you don't know exactly where the omen is going to come from, but it will come. It will come from somewhere.
So we still have a handful of minutes here.
Okay.
Going back to the original story, do we know who the omen that showed up for the seer?
No,
No.
it was no. This was the seer. What was somebody that Alexander Carmichael met as he traveled through the Highlands, and he did give the person a name or or anything, but he was fascinated by this technique of going through all this stuff on the Monday morning at dawn in order to put yourself in the right spot and the right frame of mind to be open to the spirits to give you a sign.
So if anyone wants to share their omens or, any comments, then you can chat those comments over, or any questions, throw those into the Q&A. We'll give it just a few more minutes, and if everyone's feeling complete, or if you have another story to share. Oh, here, okay. It was a white crane flying smack dab in the middle of big city Dallas. So amazing. I will be doing this forever, LOL. Thanks, Randy.
I know, and that's the thing about doing this. Sometimes I do it when I don't really have an urgent issue or question, but I just want to be doing something that makes me feel I'm connected to the earth, to the universe, that I'm not an isolated person, but that I have connections. There are threads or ropes or something that are sort of, tying me and holding me in a good place. It's part of the world. So omen hunts, they change you too. They help you to see the world in a different way. And I think the more you do them, the more you'll figure out different ways to do them. I gave you 2 methods, and they're just 2 methods that I devised for myself over the years that I've taught to people. But there are other ways to do open hunts too, and you should experiment, try it. Just kind of keep the basic principles in mind, namely, you're doing this with the spirits, you're giving thanks, you're asking for help, and you're putting yourself into what I like to call a receptive place, a place where you're receptive to seeing the signs and the omens that are around you.
Joan shares a comment. I worked between 2 buildings and was shown the flowers in the tree in my yard. New beginnings in Chicago. That's awesome.
Good.
It was a stone monk, about 3 feet tall, that my brother-in-law just put in the yard last weekend. It wasn't visible from where I started. Here's one. Thank you, Robert, for sharing. Wendy says, I simply asked best way to lose my extra weight. I heard the wind roar and branches hit together. Also a crow. I saw the trees dancing wildly in the wind. Beautiful description.
Yeah.
Carl says, I asked, how shall I live? And the omen was a golden fixture of a yellow glass sun face. Thanks. Colleen, I worked between 2 buildings and was facing directly east, looking at a brick wall with the birds singing.
Yeah. What's nice about all those omens is that they're very concise. I was teaching this in New York City once at the Open Center, and a woman came back and she said, well, I got my omen, but I have no idea what it means. So I said, well, what's the omen? She said, well, I looked up and there was a woman in a red raincoat walking in front of a brick building, and there was a sign in the window of the building that said for sale. And then a cab went by and stopped right in front of the woman, and she turned around, and then she started walking up the street rather than down the street. She was walking south, and then she turned around and she went up north. And she said, the woman who was doing the omen hunt, she said, I just can't make sense out of it. And my comment back to her was that she had too much information. The omen that you get is usually something kind of precise, like Amanda just gave us examples of. If it goes on and on and on and on and on, it's sort of like laying out all the tarot cards at one time and not knowing exactly where to start. So I asked her, I said, what's the omen? Is it the woman in the red raincoat? Is it the going out of business sign? Is it a cab that blocks your view? Is it a brick building? You want to keep the omen very precise. And if it doesn't come, as I said before, if it doesn't come in the first few seconds, don't start scanning and thinking, well, where is it? Is it here? Is it there? Because at that point, you're looking for something. You're not letting the spirits show it to you. You're digging for it yourself. And you want to just have this open feeling, open attitude to yourself that you're letting the spirits move you around outside, getting you positioned in certain directions, telling you what the precise moment to look up to see what it is you need to see to answer your questions or to make more sense out of your life. Play with it. Play with it. There's no exactly one way to do these omen hunts. And I hope that, as you do them, you'll get to like them and they'll become very meaningful for you.
We have just a couple comments on the Q&A section. One person says, it reminds me of lucid dreaming that naturally happens when I'm in nature. It gives me an insight into the future. I never thought of it as liminal space. Seems similar. Maybe similar. Yeah, it is similar.
Yeah.
Another woman says, I love this. Recently becoming disabled in a wheelchair means I felt my connection to the earth was occluded by it. This is a great way to maintain a more direct connection. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are, I guess we call them seers, don't we, are able to just kind of go out and see into the mystery of things, see into the heart of things. And this method is a way of doing that. It's a way of putting yourself out there and looking around and getting information that might be very helpful.
We have a few more shares, and then looks like we can wrap it up. Vanessa shares, my foot started vibrating very strongly. It startled me a bit. No idea how to interpret that. And Robert shares, this was an instant lightning strike of a concept. Somewhat startling, actually. And then Vanessa shares, can the omen be a feeling within versus the outside?
That's a good question. And in fact, I'm sorry, I kind of forgot to bring that up. The omen is outside of you. It's not inside of you. So if you're doing the omen hunt and your spirits are saying, okay, look up, and you look up and you suddenly feel really good. That good feeling is not the omen. The omen is out there somewhere. It's nice that you feel good, or maybe you wouldn't feel good. But the omen itself is not within you, it's outside. And the whole idea of going outside is to contact it, to see it, to meet up with it. So I'd like to sort of advise you not to get too serious or too worried about what you're feeling inside as you do the omen hunt, but to keep your attention focused out beyond you in the world. The earth has answers. The earth is receptive. The earth answers when we need help. And this is one way that you can go out and let the earth help you with your life. So I guess we're drawing to a close. I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you, Amanda and Lally. And happy omen hunting.
Thank you, Tom, for guiding us into the betwixt and between. So fun to say. Omen hunting, asking support for answers to questions that may bring forth great clarity. Another wonderful tool to add to our toolbox. So thank you. Hop on over to the next session in 15 minutes where we will all share our video in a Zoom meeting space. In this session, we gather as a community, then break out into journey groups and offer tendings to Mother Earth using a Shamanism Without Borders process. So pull up your chat box for that direct link, and we will see you soon. I'll lead you out with some beautiful Celtic nature music. Thanks, everyone.